Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by the president of Legacy Fighting Championship, Mick Maynard. Mick, how are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Mick, we'll get to the fight card for Legacy 20 that's going on this Friday on Access TV. We'll get to that in a second, but let's get to some news about Legacy first. Let's start with that. Matthew Riddle, he was signed with your organization. He's no longer a part of the organization as Bellator has purchased his contract. How did this all come about? How did Bellator come in and, into this whole deal with you and say, hey, we want him. Is there any way we can work this out? Can you talk us through how this thing came together and what the deal exactly is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. We had Matt scheduled to fight, of course, on July 19th fight card, and we had been Matt's manager reached out to us. He had told us that Bellator was interested in having Matt fight on September, in the tournament. And I think the possibility of Matt still fighting for us in July was there. But from our standpoint, if we're either going to have him for the full length of this contract or not at all. We weren't really interested in promoting him for another organization. So Bellator came and they made an offer, and we accepted.
Mm-hmm. Now, this isn't the first time that you guys have let a fighter go if something else that they're interested in doing comes up. Jamie Varner was scheduled to fight for you guys. You let him go to the UFC. Efrain Escudero, he was supposed to fight for you guys. You let him go to the UFC. Is that the plan from here on out? If something where a fighter comes to you and says something that's reasonable, he comes to you and says I'd like to do this, you're still open to, or is it got to be taken on a case by case basis?
It's really a case by case basis. I mean, I will say this: I think that every person's goal in life, for the most part, is to be able to provide to have an American dream, have a home and provide for the family and all that sort of good stuff that everyone's trying to make happen. So, if a fighter has an opportunity to make that happen and we think we can provide them that opportunity, then we definitely want to work with them. We have no problems with that at all. At this point, I guess our philosophy is we feel like the only one that, I guess, can make that happen for them, and we feel is truly above us from a financial standpoint in terms of what they're offering the fighter is UFC. In terms of what fighters are being paid for Bellator, I'm sure that there's some that are being paid high dollar, but for the most part, I think we can match in terms of talent. I think we can match them on that level as well. So at the moment, UFC, if they come calling, if a fighter has an opportunity to get a UFC contract, then yes, we generally release it.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the language of the contracts that you guys put out there, is that in the contract of UFC out? Because we hear that so many times with fighters saying, I'll sign with this organization or that organization if I get a UFC out. Is that something written, or is that kind of a non-written agreement between promoter and fighter?
It's kind of both. It's a case-by-case basis. If people ask for it, we actually are more than willing to give it. Mm-hmm. I guess the UFC obviously is considered the top organization in the world. There's only so many people that are going to go to the UFC in our lifetime or in their lifetimes, and so it's really not a big deal. But once again, even if it wasn't in the contract, if the UFC came calling and a fighter wanted to go to the UFC and they were providing them an opportunity we felt like we couldn't give them, then we would let them go. Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember seeing...
And that's purely, purely from an ethical standpoint. I just feel like that's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So we kind of try to live that way.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing an article about you, and you were talking about how you wanted to follow the Strikeforce model, the plan that Strikeforce had where they were regional and they eventually built up to being, a top organization out there. I think that was like a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than a year, maybe close to 2 years. Since you said that, how has the plan been? Is it going according to plan? Are you, building towards that? As we're 2 years into this, since you said you're going to follow the Strikeforce model, how would you grade yourself on following that model?
I trained ourselves very well. I think it's gone great. Our number of shows this year, we're about to add an August 23rd show, it looks like, in Lubbock, Texas. So that'll be 10 shows for the year. So, obviously we're getting real close to averaging one a month. So, in terms of growth, we're definitely showing that. In terms of the people that we're signing, we just signed, and I'm saying this to you, this hasn't really even been fully released yet, but we just signed Holly Holm.
Okay.
And we're building a roster that is incredibly talented. I don't know if you follow Fight Matrix, but in terms of our rankings, talent rankings, we're in the top 5 in the world already. And I think that if you really look at those top 5, I think we could easily be considered in the top 3. So, I think it's going well. Hopefully we just keep on trucking on and continue to grow.
Outside of UFC and Bellator, you definitely are up there with show frequency, because it seems like every Friday, even if it's not every Friday you're on Access TV, it seems like every time Access TV Inside MMA puts up the schedule for Access TV fights, you guys are always on there. So you definitely are getting the exposure out there.
That's what we're working for sure. And we love them. They're a great partner, and it's been definitely a great relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Strikeforce, they had the HP Pavilion. That was the venue that if there was something that wasn't out there that they thought they were going to be able to put a show on in a different area, they would always fall back on HP Pavilion. Is Houston Arena, or let me try to remember the name of it, Arena Theater, Arena Theater in Houston, is that kind of your HP Pavilion?
It is. I mean, it's that, and also we've been putting on shows at Allen Event Center, which is a suburb of Dallas, and that's also. I mean, that's a beautiful venue. It's a big venue, and so I'd say between Dallas and Houston, that would be our 2 go-tos for sure. But we're doing Dallas, of course. Houston, Corpus Christi is this Friday. San Antonio, we're about to add Lubbock. So we're really trying to branch out, and we're working with different venues in Oklahoma and Louisiana as well. So we're trying to spread out. But at the moment, I would say our Houston and Dallas venues would be our definite go-tos.
A lot of people out there, a lot of fans, they always want to see a live show, and people from Illinois want to see you come to Illinois. People from Arizona want to see you come to Arizona. There's always going to be that demand out there, and especially with a regional show that's doing big things like Legacy, they want them to travel around. The fans want to see it live. Is this something that is in the plans, eventually branching out to different states, or are you just kind of, staying local in Texas and trying to move around, but move around Texas? What's the plan there?
No, actually, we definitely want to branch out. At the beginning of this year, we had a deal with an organization where we thought we were actually going to be going to Arizona and to Florida. And if Connecticut legalized MMA, we were going to go there. Unfortunately, the partnership didn't fit us, and so it ended up not happening. But we're always looking at opportunities to go to different states. There's really nowhere we wouldn't go. In fact, I'd like to go international. So, at this point, we're open to anything if it makes sense.
I see. Now, Mick, your welterweight division is probably the most stacked division. You also have a great flyweight division, but this welterweight division is very exciting, I think. You have your champion, George Patino. You have your interim champion, Jeff Rexroad. What's the timetable to see that fight, to unify the belts? When are you hoping to put that fight on?
I'm not sure. I mean, Makako has stayed very busy at lightweight, and Jeff actually is his wife is getting ready to have a baby. So I'm not sure that he's in such a rush to get back in there, but I don't know. I'd say he's coming in the next 6 months. We could probably see that happening.
Now, will Patino, will he defend the welterweight title before that, or will he just stay at lightweight until Rexroad is ready to go?
I think he'd be, what? Honestly, he would do anything. I mean, Makako would probably fight every week if he could. So I think if there's an opportunity for him to defend the belt at welterweight, he'll do it tomorrow. And the same goes with lightweight. He's a warrior. He's a competitor. Makako is just amazing. I mean, he's an incredible champion. And whether it's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament or MMA bout, he's ready to rock and roll on a moment's notice. So he's a true competitor. So honestly, he's always ready. If I called him tomorrow, I bet you'd come down here and fight.
Yeah, definitely. And he's getting older, but he's getting better. He's like a fine wine. He just gets better with age.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a young. I would say he's a young fighter. Young fighter's nightmare. You know, the person that's trying to build their career and get up and come, and he's a nightmare because he's going to give anybody, especially a lightweight. I mean, a welterweight as well, but obviously if you can make lightweight and he's a little smaller welterweight. He's going to give anybody that weight class a hard time in the UFC or anywhere.
Definitely. You guys signed Evangelista Cyborg. When can we expect his debut?
You know what? We just had trouble getting it going. He got injured for his first bout, and then we had him. We did have him scheduled for July, and that didn't work out. So honestly, we've definitely had some conflicts there in terms of dates and trying to get him on. So I wish I could give you more news on that, but I really do not know at this point when he's going to make his debut.
Now you had a fight.
We did extend his contract though, so we have him for another 12 months.
Now you had a. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
You had a fight. One of your main events on a recent show was Pete Spratt versus Dan Hornbuckle. Dan Hornbuckle won that fight by decision. Is Hornbuckle in the mix right now, whether it be for Patino's belt or Rex Rhodes' belt, whoever? Is he the number one guy after them?
You know, I don't know. It's a very deep division. I mean, speaking of that, he just won the deep belt. Dan's a great guy, and he's a great fighter. It's very exciting. So, yeah, he's definitely in the mix. I mean, I'm not sure when he'll be fighting for us again, but we would definitely like to get him in there as soon as possible.
And also, Pete Spratt, when do you expect him to be back? I know he suffered an injury in that fight, or I think it was leading up to that fight, and he just decided to take the fight anyways. Is he going to be back?
He'll be back in December.
Okay.
Hopefully sooner, but definitely December.
And also, your flyweight division has become very strong. You're going to have a flyweight fight on this one. It's higher up on the card. Antonio Banuelos is going to be fighting in that fight. But your welterweight division, your champion, Will Capizano, he's just looked fantastic. These last two or the fight where he won the belt and then the title defense, he's looked great. What do you expect to be next for him?
I think we'll have Will for at least one more bout. And then I honestly think we'll probably lose it to the UFC. Will's ranked, top 10 on many rankings. He's one of the few non-UFC fighters on the USA Today MMA Junkie rankings. So, I mean, he'll probably be picked up by the UFC soon. Of course, he came from the UFC, but that was a bantamweight. I mean, Will's so well-rounded. He's very excited. It'd be crazy not to pick him up.
Also, another guy who a lot of people think is on the UFC's radar, your heavyweight champion, Derek Lewis. A lot of people think that he's very close to getting a call from the UFC. Right. Who's the number one guy at heavyweight that could possibly challenge him?
You know what? Jared Rocho is actually coming back in the mix. I don't know when we have Derek. We had talked about getting Derek on an August show, on something in August, but heavyweight's a tough division. I mean, quite frankly, outside of the UFC, it's tough to find at least quality heavyweights, and so we're real picky when it comes to that. Jared, of course, had an impressive showing his last bout, so we could definitely get him back in the mix. And I don't know, we're kind of playing it by ear.
I think right now the only belts that you have vacant are bantamweight, featherweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight. Your middleweight title fight is going to be in July. Larry Crow is going to fight Bubba Bush. We're finally going to get to see that fight. Light heavyweight wise, is it basically just Robert Drysdale against to be determined later?
Exactly. Robert will be fighting for our title next at light heavyweight. Yes, we do have Bubba Bush and Larry Crow for the middleweight title, and then bantamweight is Angel Huerta versus Matt Hobaugh. So that'll figure out bantamweight. So we're getting all this stuff cleared out.
And by the end of 2013, do you expect champions in every weight class?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. And now, a guy who was supposed to fight on a couple of your cards, and one, he got injured, and then he was transplanted from one card to the other, and then eventually he got injured. Junior Asuncao, what's going on with him? He's kind of been bit by the injury bug here. When do you expect him to finally make his debut?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think Junior had some personal things come up, and that's the reason why he's not on this fight card Friday night. He was injury-free, but we were hoping to have him on here, but personal issues came up that prevented that. Hopefully by the fall, we'll have Junior back in the mix.
Now let's transition over to Legacy 20, which is going to be taking place this Friday night, live on Access TV from the American Bank Center in Corpus Christi, Texas. Your main event features a lightweight special attraction between Carlo Prater and Carlos Diego Ferreira. Carlo Prater 1-0 under the Legacy banner. Is this a number one contender fight between Prater and Ferreira?
Yeah, I would say you could definitely call it that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the winner of that would definitely be top of the line to challenge Macaco for the lightweight belt.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's going to be the Legacy debut of Damasio Page. Now, Page, on this card, it looks like, looking over all the rest of the guys on the card, it looks like he's definitely the guy who's got the most pressure on him. He's coming off a couple losses in the UFC. He's looking for a fresh start in Legacy. How much pressure is on this guy? He's fighting an up-and-coming guy that a lot of people don't really know about. How much pressure is on Damasio Page to have a good performance this Friday?
I mean, I'd say anybody on the outside would say there's a lot of pressure. I would imagine if you spoke to Damasio, he doesn't feel that way at all. I mean, I think he's ready. He's been on a long layoff. He's ready to get back in there and improve himself. And he's got a very tough opponent. People shouldn't lay down on Patrick. I mean, Patrick's a submission specialist. He's incredibly tough. And this is going to be a hell of a fight. But I think Damasio is taking his stride. I think he's ready to go. He's eager.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, Page, he's had some losses, and he's fresh out of the UFC. And you guys definitely don't shy away from taking the guys. You also signed Leonard Garcia, who's fresh out the UFC. You guys definitely don't shy away from taking the UFC vets, which I give you a lot of credit for, because there's a lot of promoters out there who don't want these guys who kind of washed out of the UFC. Why take on Page and Garcia right out of the UFC? Why not maybe let them get maybe one or two fights on a smaller show, and then once they've built themselves back up again and are right on that cusp of getting a call back, then bring them in? Why bring them in fresh out of the UFC?
I mean, honestly, we don't take everybody. I mean, we get calls from a lot of UFC vets, and the opportunity is there pretty much on a daily basis. But they fit our molds. They're exciting. They're great guys. They're very exciting. They're people. They're fighters people want to watch. So why not?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, there was supposed to be a fight on this card. David Douglas was supposed to take on Hector Munoz. That fight is canceled because David Douglas, his medicals expired or something. I don't really know the whole story. How difficult was that to have to make the call to Hector Munoz, a hometown guy in Corpus Christi, and tell him, hey, you're not going to be able to fight on this card because of a reason that could have been taken care of, and we wouldn't have this issue?
I think Hector's a vet, and it was all good. He took it in stride. He's a seasoned veteran, so he's seen a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was just too late in the game to get a replacement opponent. Is that the reason he's not on the card anymore?
You know what? No, actually, we did have a replacement for Hector, but he actually suffered a training injury as well. So at the end of the day, it all kind of worked out.
Oh, I see. And is that fight, going to be rescheduled for a later date, or is it kind of just, it was a one-time thing and now,
We'll probably get Hector back in on September, on our September show.
I see. What's the fight on this Legacy 20 card that people aren't talking about, but you think they should be talking about? What's the one to look out for?
Matt Snell and Elias Garcia. The first fight of the night, I think it could potentially be a fight of the night.
Now, are there any plans to stream these prelims anywhere, or is it, just going to be dark right now?
No, not really. I mean, there's been a couple opportunities to look at it, but at the moment, we're going to kind of keep it as it is.
I see. Well, Mick, best of luck on the show this Friday night. Real quick, before I let you go, tell people where they can follow you and follow Legacy Fighting and everything you guys got going on.
Absolutely. You can catch us on Twitter. It's @Legacy Fighting. We do, obviously, you can catch us on Facebook as well. We have our fan page up and running. My personal one is @Mick Maynard 2 on Twitter. And make sure to tune in at Access TV at 9 p.m. on Friday night.
Mick, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it, and best of luck this Friday night.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll talk to you